On the Sofa with Esther pays tribute to the late Angie Stone with Herb Middleton, multi-Grammy nominated, multi-platinum record producer, songwriter, musician, Melba Moore, music icon, and Bobby Brooks Wilson. So welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to On the Sofa with Esther, the show where legends, legacy, and life takes center stage. And what comes to me at this moment in time, because of what's happened, is the show must go on, right? The show must go on. So in this special tribute episode, we honor the life and the legacy of the late, great Angie Stone, who passed away on March the 1st, 2025. Angie was a powerhouse in soul, R&B, and neo-soul, a true queen whose voice told stories of love, struggle, empowerment, and pride. From her early days with The Sequence, one of the first female hip-hop groups, to her breakout solo success, with timeless tracks like No More Rain, In This Cloud, Wish I Didn't Miss You, and the unforgettable anthem, Brotha. Angie uplifted and celebrated Black men and women with grace, strength, and soul. And joining me today is Melba Moore, music icon and Hollywood Walk of Fame honoree, Bobby Brooks Wilson, acclaimed entertainer and the son of legendary Jackie Wilson, and very shortly, Herb Middleton, multi-Grammy nominated, multi-platinum record producer, songwriter, musician, and arranger. So thank you for in the short space of time for coming back on, Melba and Bobby. Really appreciate it. I thought my head was gonna bust, but it is what it is. As we say, the show must go on. So today this show very much is about honoring the legacy and the legend of who Angie Stone was. And I know when we spoke previously, Melva was quite overcome with, I would say, the grief of Angie passing, but also a lot of that was tied into what she meant to you, who she showed up to be. And then Bobby is also going to talk about his allegiance with Angie, because he went to school with her and he remembers so much about who she transpired to be as an adult from when she was a child, when they went to school together. And so jumping into things as they are, Melba, can you just share firstly, how are you feeling now about the passing of Angie, and how did you know Angie?
Well, what I'm reminded of is life is a mystery. It's very dynamic and very powerful. Now I want to be sure that I truly give Miss Angie the respect that her life is due, because our emotions are huge. And they usually kind of deal with how we think now. But I must be reminded that we have the responsibility of keeping our love in front of us, our concerns for other people, not just our own feelings in front of us. And now, my concern is also for you, that you don't get robbed of the opportunity that is your career and your life. And I'm reminded once again, I wouldn't be here if it weren't for people like Herb Middleton, who's going to come on. And so I just wanted to take a moment to go back myself for a second and remember what those moments were that I lived with Angie, so I don't go on to my next thing. Because we have our lives here, we're still here. And it's very easy to just step into the next now. I don't really want to do that. And I really don't want to go back to the moments of grief that I had, finding out that suddenly we didn't have her anymore. But God is in charge. This is true life. And it's a grievous situation. It's very, very grievous. And I pass over it and just go to the next moment. And I don't want to pretend like I can just pull it up either. But I do want to remember that how I first met Angie, and I didn't spend a lot of time with her, but the most time that I did spend with her was on the filming of The Fighting Temptations, which was a musical comedy. And that's important because I was very concerned about doing the film in the first place, because I don't like the way sometimes comedies make fun of the church. and I did it with a bit of trepidation. But one of the first people I met on the set is somebody you don't play with, and that's Pastor Shirley Caesar. So I felt confident that they were going to treat the film with respect, and I believe that they did. And all of the actors on the set and the directors and everybody were very respectful of the church itself. But as far as Angie was concerned, I remember her being very open, and she had a generous and a vivacious personality, and um, she was gregarious. I picked that up because I'm not. I'm very shy, and I've learned how to speak and come out of my shell and be with people. But she seemed to be at home with people, speak and just naturally, and talk about a situation or ask you something. That's on the set. But the very first time I met Angie, I was standing on Central Park West and 110th Street or something like that in New York. Because I used to go to a Baptist church called White Rock Church. And it was probably I don't remember what day, but I think it was a Sunday because I was standing outside on the street. So I was probably waiting for a cab or something. And she passed by in a car, and she wasn't driving, someone else was driving. I don't know, it was a family member of whom, but she said, Melba Moore, and she yelled out the window. I said, yeah, it's me. She said, I'm Angie Stone. And she was already very famous, but I wasn't familiar with her. But she said, where are you going? You need a ride? I said, well, yeah. And I got in the car, and I was only going from 110th Street to Columbus Circle, which is like 59th Street. But she began to talk and say things that she knew about my career and nice things. But my point is that she was, I mean, I could have been a diva and cussed her out or something because, you know, all famous people are not very nice. But she felt comfortable and warm and friendly. That's my point about Angie. And I'll skip back to the filming set. She was exactly the same way on Fighting Temptations. And I remember one instance we were doing the vocal overdubs, recordings of the voice. What you do in films, you usually sing the music and then you lip sync to it on camera. You mouth it like you're singing, but you're not, so they can control the sound. But while we were in the studio, she was inviting me to try to share some compositions of songs and arrangements of the songs. I'm saying, but I don't write music. I mean, I did write some songs a while ago, but I never really developed the art and the skill. And it's something, even if you're very, very, very talented at it, as she was, you need to work at that and do that. I said, well, you know, I don't know, maybe something will come. We stood there for hours, nothing ever came. But the point was, she sat there for hours trying to help me elicit something. And I thought, now, in retrospect, that's what kind of says who Angie is. She's open, giving, generous, and wanting to share her very self with you. And that's my feeling about Angie.
Thank you. Thank you. And, you know, like I said before, there's so much about Angie that I've heard, rather in the posts that were paying tribute to her when she died. But there is one couple of key things that stand out. It was her generosity, and it was also her, just for her to be who she is. She always said that. Even I had the privilege of interviewing her twice and meeting her. But in those interviews, she always said, you know, this is who I am. I just want to be me. And I guess holding on to that essence in the music industry can be difficult at times, just to hold on to you and be you. And you know, from your story, Melba, I know that you understand that quite profoundly. And then Herb, because I know you said you know you've worked with Herb before. Herb has you know, in a professional capacity, and he's also worked with Angie. And just your role, I believe, Herb, also in the life of Melba and Angie was very significant as well. Can you just share a bit more in terms of how you knew Angie and just a little bit of how you met Melba as well?
Well, to start with Melba, I met Melba through a mutual friend that passed away. His name was Donald McIntyre. He introduced me to Melba, and at the time in her life, we were both believers, and I love the fact that she wasn't stopping in spite of what she was going through. So it is on my heart just to be there for her, just as a brother should. And we just made some great music together, and we got more to do. And
I think it's
so
important.
that
It's important to say that I'm sure that one of the reasons it happened was I was a born again Christian. It took me a while to even find that out because I didn't find it out in church or in the normal ways. But doing these challenges, I had lost my career, I lost my family, I lost my daughter, but I wanted to sing some gospel music, but I didn't know any gospels. I think that's hilarious. I didn't know any gospel songs. So Hybe, as I call him, donated for me my very first gospel album. So you can
Wow.
go it now.
yeah, and thank you, Melba. It was
I'm
a
sorry, that
pleasure.
was,
You know, it's
wait
a
a minute.
blessing.
Wait a minute, Herbie. That was because of Donald McIntyre, whom I met on the street. And he introduced me to Dr. Bobby Jones and got me into the gospel festivals and stuff. And I didn't have a gospel song. So there's a song that I sing called Lean on Me, written by Van McCoy, that he had written for Aretha Franklin. But I didn't have any songs. So instead of singing Lean on Me, I sang Lean on Jesus because I wanted to get into gospel. Please continue, Herbie.
Got you, got you. So yeah, we developed a great working relationship in that season of Melba's life, and then I came back later to do some more music. So long story short, we have a great history of brother and sisterhood friendship. She knows my family, and then to touch on Angie, I met her in the '90s for my first production deal with RCA. Uh, and like I didn't even know that she was going to be involved with the writing process. The name of the group was Three from the Soul. They were like a new age OJs, if you will. But when I met Angie, it was just like, even though I didn't know her, she made me feel like I knew her. She was so friendly, so down to earth. She wasn't up there, you know, above the stars like, you know, many people choose to be. She was very soulful, and I say she had a soul. She sung soul because she had a soul. She was deep. Her soul was deep to me. You know what I'm saying? And she seemed like a mother type figure. Now we like in the same age group, but she seemed like a little older, you know, a little wiser than I was back in the '90s. I don't want to say what the age is. That's irrelevant. But the fact is that she had that soul that not only came out in her music, but just in her presence.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you. And, you know, this then goes on to Bobby because Bobby knew her when they were children, literally. And it seems that that essence of her has been key to who she eventually became. It was always her from the start. So Bobby, if you can share your experience of knowing Angie.
Yeah, you know, I met Angie back in when I was 13 years old. As you already know, I grew up in a foster home, and the social workers came up with this program where they allow access if we want to be a part of it, called Project Upperbound, and it was held at Benedict College, which is still there in Columbia, South Carolina. So at 13 years old, I go off in the summer and learn how to be a college student and prepare for college. But the Upperbound program prepared us for a lot more than that. But I met Angie there, and when we met, we kind of hit it off, and we would sit around the steps, and she would have a book of poems, like a notebook, over 150 pages, or every page full of something, and she would read the poems out to me, and I was thinking how fantastic it was, and I knew that she was eons ahead of me because even though we were 13, my mind, I think I was 13. I think Angie was at 21 and 22 at the same age. And she wrote every day. That I noticed. I noticed she had a type of drive about her, a type of obedience about her, where she stayed on top of her writing. And then during the summer, of course, we went there for 4 summers. But during the summer, they would put up these plays and musicals. And we both got involved in the plays. We both got involved in the musicals. Even the talent show, my very first talent show I never forget I sung the song by the Charlottes called "Oh Girl." And Angie was in there singing too. I just don't remember what song she did. And it was a lot of fun. And but when I got out of Up About and I joined the Navy and I moved on, forgot about music. But Angie at that time had got picked up with Sugar Hill Gang, with the first female rap group. And I was really excited for her. And I went to boot camp. I never forget. I went to boot camp, came back, and met her in church and saw her in church. And I was like, "Hey, how is it?" And she goes, "Well, it's kind of a whirlwind. It's kind of a whirlwind because she just got signed." And I said, "Well, how did it happen?" And she, "Well, we went backstage and Township Auditorium sung to these producers, and they signed us." It's like, wow. It was like a storybook story for her. And then she took off, and I never really got to see her anymore. No more than online. I would drop in on some of her sessions where she was reading from the Bible and teaching. She was doing a lot of teaching sessions. I don't know if you knew about that. And so I would drop in on her sessions where she would teach from certain parts of the Bible. And of course, when I got the news, it just devastated me because I felt like Angie was real. She was family, and she always. It doesn't matter if I saw Angie today or see Angie 5 years from now. She's the same. It's not like any time had passed. Every time I saw her, it was like no time had passed. What are you up to, Bobby? So it was one of those things. So God bless her, and like I said before, God is the creator and the timekeeper. So for whatever reason, he had to bring her home, and she's working on that side. So I just bless her family, and miss her.
Okay. And we are live now because we're getting messages. We're getting, because I had to double, triple check. And so there's Marilyn Devonish saying, fantastic, glad to have caught this. Elva Mason, hello. Darnell Alexandra, hello everyone. Cheryl Riggins Sumner, thank you, Cheryl. Cheryl was a great backbone because I said, please get hold of Herb, from the last bit. So I just want to say thank you to all those who've really supported us getting to this place to have this conversation, because people really want to hear from yourselves. And, as we know that, like you said, Angie was generous. Angie was a giver. Angie was a fighter. And in a lot of her music, a lot of that came out, the passion and the depth, like she said, for what she sung about. So for you, what were maybe one of her favorite songs? Melba, what was one, if you can remember, what was one of her favorite songs?
I'm really not familiar with her music. I just know Angie.
Okay. And what can you take away then from knowing her? What has Melba Moore taken away from?
What I can go back to is our performing together in the Fighting Temptations. She would always take the lead, even if you were with her. She was just a leader. And when I remember, I think it's the last song we did over the credits, "Coming Home." I think that's "Time to Come Home." And we're trying to. I'm not no dancer, but Angie could dance if she wanted to. And of course, we know what Beyonce is. It's another whole story. Come imagine the three of us together. But you see, I think today's gospel genre can house so many different kinds of, every different kind of honor, and give God the glory for the diversity that He likes to have. And I learned some things about myself, and because I worked solo all the time, and working with other people. Besides the fact, now I kind of know that I'm short. I know I like to make jokes too. But Beyonce looked like she was so tall. I said, dog, how am I going to sing with her? She's so tall. But these are the physical things that you're a person, you're a human being, and you're a woman. So you got to step with each other and everything. I remember watching the video and saying, oh, at least I kept the steps okay. We did pretty good. And I think the whole feeling I get was working with that diverse types of talents And some of them like really, 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 really super award-winning actors and combination musicians made me feel hopeful for my own life and my career. That's a part of the legacy when you do something. And I'm not a gospel singer. I'm a born-again Christian. Of course, I can sing sacred music, but you know what I mean by gospel singers.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, I mean, and for instance, I gasped when Cuba Gooding was playing the choir leader and flat-footed, he stood and did a back over flip. I said, I guess I'm really impressed with other people's talents. And so working in an ensemble and not as opposed to working solo all the time is really, really wonderful. I want to do much more of it. And of course, Angie has her own spot and her own person. But the piece was like that. And I thought like, because it was, and it really did give honor to God in terms of how it treated it. And the director, I can't remember his name now, but if you ever see the movie My Cousin Vinny, he's the one who directed that. So he's a genius comedy director. So I thought, wait my goodness, I got a Tony Award for comedy. So I might do some more comedy. I guess it made me feel refreshed and hopeful about the next part of my life.
Thank you. Thank you. So Angie was an inspiration on so many levels for you. And what about you, Herb? And there's a couple of questions people are this presenting. If I may say, firstly, Ron Ledford. Thank you, Ron. He says, yes, we wanted to see this, and he's thanking us all for coming back on. Thank you, Ron. And Marilyn Devonish says, I just have to shout out Auntie Melba from the D Nice CQ Club 17.
What? Yes. All the
And there-
DJs in the house. D Nice and all the CQ people. That's another group of people who they always come out and support everybody. And when we had the COVID, it was shut down. They were out getting people out to vote. I mean, this is what I think people like Angie and all of us do when we have an opportunity. We take these challenges and these difficult times, impossible times, and show the possibilities and how you can create or be the instruments of God's miracles in the midst of them. Something really special and dynamic, not just nice and fun and okay, but dynamic.
Wow, thank you. And Bobby, what would you say to that?
Well, I think I said on last time before it didn't get over, but Angie was like, she had a touch, she had a spark. I didn't recognize at that time because of course I wasn't in the music at the time, but I did when I did get into music, which was later on in my life after the Navy. Was working for Peter Hernandez, Bruno Mars' father, and I saw in Bruno the same thing I saw in Angie when we were 13. Angie had this obedience about her, that tenacity and open. The door was open for her to go out to the world and do what she did. Bruno at 6 years old had the same thing. And he would self-study on his own. And he had all these tapes on different stars like Stevie Wonder and Jackie Wilson and Michael Jackson. And this kid was teaching himself, because I would ask his father, are you making him do this? He goes, no, he wants to do it. So he had the tools. His father just made the tools. He gave him the drum set, the guitar, the piano, whatever he needed. And he just seemed like self-taught, self-driven. And so at 6 years old, he knew he wanted to be an artist at 6. And at 13 with Angie, she knew that she wanted to do something with those lyrics that she was writing. Well, the poems that she was writing, because she knew she had to move on. And then with us being in the arts, I guess one step led to the next. And so, I'm just thrilled to death that she got to really expand on with her gifts that God gave her. And then she gave us gifts that we got for the rest of our lives and for eternity, to be honest. The music lives on. The music lives on.
And there's a question someone would like me to present to yourselves. And, if you want to answer, then it's totally up to you. But do you have any comments? And this is from Marilyn. Does anyone have any comments on Angie's December the 24th video about her music royalties and how they would advise the next generation coming into the music industry?
I pass.
I didn't see that, but I know that there are some people doing lots of work to make sure that those of us who didn't get our royalties, I'm amongst them, are there big new laws passed so that you can. I was just with God, the first rapper with Sylvia and Joe Robinson. I can't think of his name now. You just honored me, but they're doing the same thing for people.
Curtis Blow.
Curtis Blow, thank you, Curtis Blow. And those people who started were among those who started that industry and started that genre. Some of them have never been paid their royalties, but they're being lost, being passed, and you're going to get them back. And you fill out a form, and there's organizations for rappers, organizations for singing performers like myself. And we didn't. I think that's one reason why people try to get us to, even if we didn't write, be part of the composition, because the laws were a little bit better if you wrote the music, you participated in the royalties and the legalities more so. But if you were just a performer, it was very easy for them to just steal from you, say you owe them thousands of dollars because they invested in the promotion of the record. But now they're saying that, like, if you owe them hundreds of thousands of dollars at a certain date, even if you owed it to them, it's being forgiven. So I don't know what Miss Angie's view on that, but hopefully she was speaking towards what I know are going to be some, reconciling of some of that.
Yeah. Okay. Brilliant. Brilliant. And, we're going to start to wind down now, but if I had to ask any of you, Angie gave so much to each and every one of us. Like I said, I had the privilege interviewing her twice. I've met her. And the core thing of those conversations was always, I'm just being me. That's what she said a lot. I'm just doing me. It's just seen a lot of the posts where people are saying she reached out to help me. She didn't know me. So she was constantly doing that. And there's something in the process of giving, when you give of self, when you give selflessly, but you still got to look after self in the background. But when you give selflessly, there's something about being on purpose. And as Bobby had shared, from a young age, she knew her purpose. She knew, sometimes you just know who you are and what you're supposed to do. And even with this show, what happened before, that saying, the show must go on. And so there's that dedication to each and everyone else. There's that dedication to our craft, to our gift, but to our purpose. And I believe that's what Angie stood for. She was on purpose, and she stood for that. And then we can look up to her and look up to that as a symbol of inspiration, even in our own lives. And she shared often that life wasn't easy. It was incredibly, incredibly challenging. I know Melba and even Bobby's story, and probably yourself, Herb, we've all been in those sort of deep, dark places when you're on your eyeballs, not even on your knees, but it's your faith.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It is.
When you're on your eyeball, that really hurts. Okay.
But the only way is up. No, the only way is to look up, to stay in prayer and meditation, and things that work for you. So in winding down, if you could just yourselves just say, just inspire others as they may be going through their own stuff, what would you say to them, each and every one of you?
You have to keep your soul alive. The first thing you have to do is survive. But the way you do that usually is giving yourself away and getting outside of yourself, or seeing yourself in the eyes or in the presence of other people and what their needs are. Somehow your personality and your talents are built from being in the community of other people that you care about.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you. Herb?
I think the example of when Angie left for us to carry on is the concern for people, for human beings. prime example, one of the greatest songs to me was the Brotha song, where she actually encouraged brothers. She didn't down them, she was encouraging them. And for us to be in this world as dark as it is, I'm encouraged to take the baton, and I believe Melba and Bobby is as well, to take the baton and be a lighthouse, and to be, not to try to be perfect, but to represent that love that is missing in this world, and and keeping our souls, because once you lose your soul, you lose everything.
Mm.
And he had a soul.
I'm the first to say I'm not perfect, but what's worked for me, and I believe worked for Angie, is I completely just turn everything over to God. I try to let Him lead me.
Amen.
In my I'm not gonna say seniors, but in my adult years, before my adult years, I used to try to handle whatever came up and come up with my own endings, and I was always screw up. I would always mess up. But I had to remember from birth, God's taking care of me all the way to the day, all the way to what I'm doing for the day, what He's got me doing. So I stand firmly on love one another as you love yourself, and let God guide you. And just give it to Him, and don't worry about it. Just give it to Him. Yeah, we're going to have our tragedies. We're going to have our ups. We're going to have our downs. We're going to have money. We're not going to have money, but we just got to give it all to Him and just say, okay, God, you got my feet, because I don't know where I'm going or what I'm doing. So just guide my feet. Because every time I try to take the wheel, as they say, I run right into a tree. I run right into a wall. So I'd rather let God take the wheel, let it be autonomous, that word they're using now, and let God guide us and take us where we need to go. I think we'll get there much faster than trying to figure it out ourselves, And
safer.
Say again?
And safer.
Yeah, definitely.
And there's another message from Ronald Shuford. Awesome interview. Salute to you all. Fresh No Concert. Shout out to Moontown producer Herb Middleton and everyone on the panel. And there's a Theophilus Marrow Jr. I'm giving a shout out to my producer Herb Middleton and everyone else as well. Jazzy K. Ward says a shout out as well. I just want to say, and Ron Ledford once again, because this is what we've been waiting for. So I just first and foremost want to say thank each and every one of you for taking the time to come back on a second time and make this happen, because the people were waiting. And
thank God for that.
What's that?
Thank God for the people being there. Yes.
Yeah, right.
I was under pressure, Melba. I was under pressure because people like, we ain't seen you when you went, and I'm like, I've been on, and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna
I know.
And you're here, so thank you for that. And like I said before, we're all an inspiration to somebody. There's somebody watching our path, and we have to have that integrity for ourselves first, obviously to God, but to ourselves, because when we have integrity to ourselves, then we can be that for others. And just also being in purpose with our craft and our art and the gifts that you guys give just by doing what you're doing, that in itself is powerful. So I am mindful also every day of who I am, what I'm doing, what the words that come out of my mouth, and who I am evolving into. And I just hope that everybody who's listened to this interview have been inspired, and we continue to pay tribute. And there's someone who recently, apparently before she died, did a duet with Angie, and so they've just texted me. Ron's just texted me, goes, do you want to interview this guy? So I'm open because this platform is about honoring. This platform is about celebrating. So the more the merrier. So thank you so much for your time, Herb, Melba, and Bobby, and thank you to those who've listened. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I'm not going to cut off until you tell me this time.
Okay, you can go, Melba.
You sure?
Bye, everybody. Bye.
I've got the
Bye, y'all.
Hey, Herb.
All right, Bobby.
Hey, check your box.
Looking forward to meeting you, man.
Yeah, I inbox you, so check it.
I'm waiting for my song, Bobby.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
She's waiting for her song. And I'm
I'll
waiting
send
for
it to you.
my commission, because I made this happen.
And your commission, yes, I always forget that part.
got you covered, Esther.
All right, thank you. Thank you all so much.
Oh.
Bless you all. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right.
If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more content. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to click the bell icon for notifications on future videos. Thank you for watching.